We use it because it's cheap. Like you can get a room for $20 a night, and then we just go out on the lake all day. We don't gamble. We just go out on the lake. But it
You
was
didn't gamble a little bit, not even a little bit.
my son, who's 21, who we had to cancel his Vegas trip when he turned 21 because it was closed. He went down and played. He came into our room at 5:00 in the morning and slamming on our door. Hey, hey, hey. So we thought like the world was coming to an end. I just wanted to tell you guys first, I won $140. And I'm like, dude, it's like 5:00 in the morning. Get out of here. So yeah, he had success. His success was winning $140, which scares me, by the way.
Yeah, the fact that he was grinding until 5 a.m. is some degenerate level stuff.
I know it worries me, and the fact he won. I was kind of hoping he started with like 20 or $40, right? So I figure, lose it really fast, and then you'll hate gambling.
Dang.
But he won.
So here's the deal, Wayne. First of all, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you guys. Yeah.
Just like coronavirus, CSN is back. Okay. You thought it went away. You thought you didn't have to worry about it. It was just gonna heal itself.
Yeah.
But it hasn't.
It's not funny. It's
and
not
so
funny.
Here we are. No, it's
I'm
not
actually
funny.
depressed.
No, it's not funny. And I was texting you last week. I was like, look, man, I want to do a show, but I'll be honest, I'm in a bad way. Now, I was in a bad way emotionally because of what was happening in the news. It wasn't COVID related. It was, we're having race riots in the street. We're having protesters. We're having massive political upheaval. Like we've got issues as a country, big issues. I was depressed because of that, but turn the page a couple weeks, and now we've got this virus that's wreaking havoc on college athletes that are back on campus. And so I want to talk about that. I want to have some fun and talk about, the sports return, because like golf is back, baseball is coming back, basketball is coming back, hockey and MLS, who cares, right? Let's be honest, no one cares. But look, there's some major college football implications, and I was looking at schedules, Wayne, and you're on the front line of this because UCLA plays not week 1, but week 0. So you're going to get a taste of this before anybody else when you guys go to Hawaii, I believe, right? Week 0?
I don't think that's our first game.
No, okay.
Did you look? I think that's game 2, but
I told on myself. I know you're playing week 0, but maybe it's at home. I'll check it out.
Yeah, you know what? I thought it was New Mexico first. You know what's so crazy is that I've been so wrapped up in the whole what's happening right now that schedules are. I know that we have a favorable schedule this year, but it's crazy because Hawaii is a game that if you travel to Hawaii, they're not letting. Hawaii's like shut down.
Yeah,
people want to go on. We had so many friends because from California, a lot of people go to Hawaii. And what happens is they've shut it down to where when you go there, you have to quarantine for 14 days before you can start your vacation. So it's like, what's the point?
Sure.
And so I would think that they're going to have an issue, Hawaii is, with scheduling this year, where you might want to, they might have to travel if they want to play their season. Because if their state's not allowing people in, you'd have to flip it and have them come to the Rose Bowl, for example.
Right.
I don't know if they'd be willing to do that. I don't know how that would work, but I'm sure that's one of the things that's been discussed. Yeah, so here goes. It's we play New Mexico State at the Rose Bowl first, and then and that's the 29th of August. Yeah, and then we play at Hawaii, and then we have a bye after that before we play San Diego State.
Now, again, that's on paper, right? Because things are going to get Things are going to get spicy. Look, I know you're attached to UCLA athletics, and so I'm not going to ask you, Bruin specific, but you read the news, you watch this stuff, you see what's happening state by state, and you just kind of wonder. Like Serber and I were talking about Clemson the other day. 28 players at Clemson, 23 players, beg your pardon, 30 players at LSU. These guys are showing up for voluntary workouts, and they got coronavirus. So
asymptomatic, right?
Asymptomatic.
This is where this is, and again, this is. I want to backtrack to what you talked about a second ago, Stephen, because it is crazy, and the racial issues and the pandemic and all of the things that we're having. And really, before this, you guys, we were at a kind of a cold civil war between Republicans and Democrats in this country, like as bad. I mean, we've always had political strife. This isn't new. We've had problems with political parties for a long, long time. For the people that know their history, it's just not new. I mean, we had a president after the Civil War shot in the head over some of the same crap that we're dealing with right now. So I think it's muddy. I think the racial stuff and the pandemic are now kind of muddied. I don't think they're separate issues. I think they've become a part of this big political machine. And what's killing me is that I think both sides, and this is something that I'm going to get to your question in a second, but I don't know, and this is really difficult because I don't know about you guys, but I'm afraid of Twitter right now. I'm afraid that I'm going to hit a like button that I'm not trying to. I'm afraid of, I think the media and social media are a joke right now.
Yeah.
I think it's depressing. I think it's negative, and I think we're being lied to by both sides. I don't think it's possible anymore to find the truth in anything. There's always a slant. There's always an angle.
I think the agendas are probably a lot less coded than usual, right? I mean,
it's so obvious. I mean, if you have a brain in your head, it takes you 3 seconds to figure out which side of the fence people are on, and there shouldn't be any side when it comes to these issues. Racial stuff is stupid. I get it. Like right now, all the stuff. When I say it's stupid, I mean that people that still can judge a whole group of people like they're all the same somehow. And by the way, this is the pro people and the con people. Like if you're like pro a certain movement, to act like everybody in that movement is good, you're naive. There are crappy people in every race and every gender and every pick a clique, right? It's like the people that I'm watching. My wife and I've been watching this 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, and it's a very depressing show because everybody's miserable. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's been out for a long time, but we've been going through it, and they make the jocks out to all be a bunch of idiots. And it's like, I know a lot of jocks that are really good people, and I know a lot of jocks that are not. And there's a lot of in between as well. So I struggle with all the globalizing that we're doing. All of these people are this, or all of those people are that. We do it too much. And when we do it in a positive way, people are like, oh, we as a people, it's like, when did you become the spokesperson for your people that are very diverse and very different and all come from different backgrounds and all have different, you see what I'm getting at?
Sure.
We do that so much now. And people are speaking for athletes now too. Well, they're sick or they're whatever. And I tell you guys, and I'm sorry, I'm doing my normal thing where I just ramble on about a million different things. But I was watching our local news this morning, and a former NFL player, Nolan Carroll, is doing a bunch of good work with the STEM program in education. And he was talking about educating underprivileged youth. And it was just, I was listening, I'm going, man, I love this guy. I love what he's doing. He's a former athlete. He's got money, and he's out there working to help kids get a better education. Towards the end though, the newscaster asked him a question about professional football and whether or not they're going to play or not. And his answer was along the lines of, just need to get out there and play. They just need to go play. And it was almost like the alarm went off. This was a great interview, and all of a sudden the host got up and he was like, "What did he just say?" And then it was like everybody in the back was going, "Alert, alert!" Yeah, but what if somebody dies, Nolan? They just need to get out there and just play. They just need to go. If they get sick, the statistics show they're probably going to be fine, right? These are finely tuned athletes. Quarantine them, and then they'll play again. We just need to go. And it freaked these people out on the news. They didn't know how to respond to that question. They love what he's doing, but that question bothered them because it didn't fit their agenda.
And, look, the media right now, if you start to go down a path, then there's follow-up questions. It's like the gotcha approach to, journalism and journalism. So, like, here's the thing with social media. Cerber does a great job running our social media accounts at CS Now Tweets, by the way, for those of you out there in cyberspace. Twitter has become a place where people are just lurking.
Yep.
Like they're waiting for keywords or for certain, takes, slants, leans, whatever, to just kind of jump on you and to make it a thing where, if you run a corporate, a brand account, anything like this, a business account, you got to be very careful right now because it's dangerous, right? What you said about pro sports, though, is interesting because there's two debates. There's the pro sports camp, there's the college sports camp. And the college sports camp, these kids don't have the same voice. They don't have the same bargaining power that pro athletes do, Wayne. And so my concern is, while I'm not worried about fatalities as much, look, coronavirus is a fatal virus. It's killed a lot of people in this country. It's not killing college kids at the same rate that it's killing older people and people with pre-existing conditions, respiratory issues. It's not going to matter, though. If you've got 30 or 40 kids on a team, in a locker room, in a practice facility, in a weight room, whatever, who can't play, I mean, Wayne, you're talking about maybe forfeiting games, maybe saying we can't take the field, we can't practice. I mean, this isn't basketball. This isn't 13 dudes, traveling around. You're talking about over 100 players, support staff, grad assistants, assistant coaches. I mean, heck, look around. All these college coaches are over 60, right? I mean, it's a dicey situation. And so I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm concerned, man. I am concerned that we're going to start this and then we're going to have to throttle back because it's college. You can't live in a bubble. It's not like what the NBA wants to do. You can't make that happen on college campuses.
We've reached a point. I agree with you, Stephen. 2 weeks ago, maybe I didn't, but now you knew with all of the people out and about. I mean, we've gone out to eat a couple times, right? And it's been great. The restaurants, it's good that, business is coming back, but they're half full because they're alternating seats. They're, and everybody's trying to be good. I mean, it's like we all hear stories about the people that refuse to wear masks and people love to judge and all that good stuff. But for the most part, people are doing what they're supposed to be doing until you go down to the bar scene and you see a bar that's open and there's people everywhere and nobody's wearing masks. And it's like, man, it's like I get frustrated. But see, I'm one of those people that didn't we know this was going to happen? Didn't we kind of know that as soon as we opened up, people were going to go out? And, I've already been to the beach where there's been 1 million people. I've been, out on my boat, at a lake where we've been doing some stuff. We've been trying to be good, but it's what's killing me is that, and this is going to sound, and I don't, again, for all the people that are judging out there, this is just a thought. I'm not a doctor, but what if we'd have gone through this the first time? What if we'd have gone through everybody getting this? And again, I know that asymptomatic people can spread it onto people that are serious, but my thought for a long time has been, I feel like if we'd have spent the stimulus money to help the people that are at risk, the diabetics, the people that have asthma, the people that are struggling with respiratory diseases, or people that have low immune systems, and said, listen, you get to stay home and we'll help you. And let everybody go about their lives. And if they get it, they're going to be sick and they're probably going to be fine because the statistics are showing that, correct? I mean, most healthy people, and I know that there's probably someone listening that goes, no, I know someone that, people die of the flu that you wouldn't think would die of the flu. And I'm not trying to do that comparison because I know that bothers people too. But I feel like we'd be farther along if we had just told the people that were the most at risk and the people around those people to be smart. To wear your mask, to do all these things, and maybe just wear a mask, but be out in public. It feels like more people would have had it and more people would be okay to kind of move on. But now I feel like we're starting all over again. And to go back to what you said originally, Stephen, I am more scared that football will not happen now than I have been in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to simplify because, yes, the mortality rate and the statistics are look, you can juke the stats however you'd like. But, yes, the mortality rate, the percentage of people who die who have this disease is very, very small. Having said that, if we had worn a mask, if we had walked around like this for the last 4 months, we probably wouldn't have had to wear masks for the next year, which is probably where we're headed, right? I mean, let's be honest.
But once you stop wearing the mask, isn't that then you're going to – then unless we have a vaccine, if your idea is let's do this until we get the vaccine. And I watched the Fauci, the 4, panelists with Congress yesterday. I spent quite a bit of time on that.
Fauci ain't playing around anymore, man.
No, I know he's not.
He's not taking any shit.
But they're talking, well said, but they're talking about this idea that he truly believes if a vaccine's even possible. Now, this is where this gets crazy because, the vaccines may not even be doable.
Sure.
But he says if it is doable, the way that they're moving now, with private factors involved, not just government. There's a lot of money involved in this.
Yeah.
That by January, he actually thinks they could have a vaccine. That's pretty soon. And if we could do the mask, I don't mind wearing the mask. It bugs me a little bit, but
I don't mind
care.
it either. That's my point.
It doesn't bother me. I wear it in the store. I even, some people don't do it when they go through the drive-through, but I always figure if the person giving me my food's wearing a mask, I could put on a mask too. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not that big of a deal.
You got a UCLA mask? Let's be honest.
No, we've got some pretty cruddy masks in our household. We just had the neighbor made a bunch, and I use those sometimes, or we get just the disposable ones.
But if
do you have like a quality?
No, man. I made one from an old Catfish Hole T-shirt that I got in Arkansas. I mean, that's. I mean, look, this isn't going to protect me from somebody spraying COVID particles in the air, but. I'm trying to be responsible, man. I'm trying to do my part. North Carolina is not in a good way right now, statistically.
Listen,
not in a good place.
Arizona's terrible right now. California's seen an uptick. I mean, this is happening all over the place. I actually want to ask Cerber a question, because his team he's actually had an interesting offseason because of Dabo Swinney. And we know that some coaches have kind of stepped in it a little bit, again, because we live in this, and I know there's a name for it. I forget, the cancel culture or whatever, like where anybody does anything remotely. I believe I know we've had a couple of T-shirt issues with Gundy and wasn't he wearing a shirt that was,
Football
and
matters.
then with all the,
Football
yeah,
matters.
right. Football matters. And then there's been this outbreak of how many people have tested positive since coming back. I'm just curious on what your thoughts are, Serbs.
So the Football Matters shirt, that was a dumb move to wear that given the current climate. I think on just the subject of Dabo, to the extent at which he could redeem himself, he somewhat has, right? He marched in the Black Lives Matter protest on campus that was organized by Clemson players.
Right.
He said some really good things in front of everyone. I think more than anything, and hopefully it's not disingenuous. He said, I need to learn more. I'm willing to learn more. I think those are important things for anyone, whether you stepped in it or not. Like, if there's anything you could take away from this, is that you need to listen and learn a lot more than maybe you're open to doing. And that goes for all things in life. Specifically for in race relations. Now, when it comes to
before
player, go ahead.
Okay. I just want to jump in there before you get to your next thought. So, are you guys? We're married people, right? Okay. Have you ever? Yeah, exactly. Have you ever said something to your wife where your intent was not? It comes out different than what your intent was. It wasn't what was in your heart, and you got in trouble for it.
Every day.
Right. So it happens a lot. Anybody out there that's in a relationship, we know we do this. And I always say that, man, I know you're mad at me, but in my heart, I promise I didn't mean it that way. Like, I didn't mean it that way. From what I've seen and what I know of Dabo and a lot of other people, I promise you this. College football coaches, for the most part right now, they love their players. They absolutely, beyond a reasonable, they love their player like they're their kids. And I've never felt like Dabo's not that way. And I honestly don't think he cares if his players are white or black. He loves his players. He just seems like he's that guy. I don't think his intent was flawed. What we're seeing right now, those are a lot of people that just need to pay attention and open their eyes and like learn from other people's mistakes. But as a society, we need to remember that when you study history, including people that are making history right now, I mean, this is a huge history moment in our countries, right? I mean, this is a big deal. We need to really pay attention and grow from it, learn from other people's mistakes, but we also have to remember this, and this is what I was getting at, Serbs. We need to forgive people. Seriously, we're so quick to judge and want people to be destroyed. Like, some things are unforgivable. That's true. But there are things that are happening out there that again, if the intent in your heart is not horrific and you just made a mistake. I love that people are like the words that you said about listen and learn. How many people have said those exact same things? 1 million people. It's almost like going to be on a t-shirt. That's what you should say. Don't you also think that we should, I've always believed this, actions speak a lot louder than words.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of people that are going to go out and they're going to be holding up signs at protests. What are they going to do when these protests are over? Like, seriously, it's easy to go stand on a street corner. It really is. It's easy. We have them in my town every day. I mean, there are people out there doing,
vote,
but
Wayne. Hopefully they'll go vote in November.
That's the thing. But even just voting. See, our country, we're too wrapped up with people believing that government somehow is, and again, government should fix things, but as a people, we need to do it every day. We need to live it. If we're not doing that, if we just go back to being our old selves, then nothing's going to happen, no matter who's in office.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look, again, the climate is really, I mean, I don't want to say it's uncharted territory, but I wasn't around in the 60s, but I would imagine that it felt a lot like this. It's just all over the news and it's all over social media and these, whether it's body cam footage or cell phone footage, just violence that we're all being exposed to, that I read about in history books, I learned about, but I mean, seeing it happen in 2020 in the streets, that's crazy. And it's spilled over into college sports, like what Serber's talking about. Black Lives Matter protest on Clemson's campus. Student athletes saying, hey, this building was named after a guy who owned slaves. This building, this stadium was named after somebody who was pro-segregation. We're not doing this anymore. So I think that's what's interesting. Football coaches are caught up in this. So whether it's, between the coronavirus and between everything that's happened racially, it's been a charged summer. And, oh, by the way, it's summer. People are laid off. They're out of work. They're laying around, and they're fucking pissed. I mean, that's a huge part of this. So it's a powder keg. And, look, whether or not we have football in the fall or not, it probably pales in comparison to what's actually happening when we all look back on this. But it's crazy how it's all getting thrown into the blender here over the last.
So here's what's crazy. So I'm a little bit older than you guys. So I was in college in '92 in LA when the Rodney King verdict came out. So I lived that. I remember Brian Adams, one of my receivers, when we were leaving the locker room, and he goes, Cookie, he goes, don't go out tonight. So what are you talking about? He goes, just don't go out tonight. It's going to be bad. And we had some players that actually were hung up in some of the looting and some of the problems. We had people get in trouble. It was crazy.
How did that play out in that locker room? I mean, you've got white people, you've got black people. How did that play out?
So this is what's crazy about that time period, and what athletics has such an amazing ability to bring people from all different cultures together and to try to get them to work together. And it's almost forced. In society, we get to hang out in our own cliques. We get to live where we live. We get to hang out with who we hang out with, and we're not forced to interact with each other. And so right now it feels like we're forced to interact with each other, and people struggle with it. It's hard. And on a team, you either you fall apart or you figure out a way to get together. And so to answer your question, during that period of time, we actually did have a problem in our locker room. We had arguments over what music we were going to listen to in the weight room. We had buses that were more predominantly white and more predominantly black, and it was all surrounded by music, as you can imagine. People didn't want to listen to certain stuff. And so we had some issues, and it was weird because after that season, which we were okay, we had a lot of injuries. We actually, our coach, the great Terry Donahue, brought us all together the next season and said, listen, we're not going to have any more of this crap. We used to have this tradition at our school where we had a wall day during spring. And that wall day, we would all start yelling. The seniors would start yelling, wall, 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 about halfway through practice. Because we used to have 20 spring practices back in those days, and it was a grind. And we would basically ditch. We would all run and jump over this big wall at the corner of our practice field, and we'd just take off, and we'd take the day off. And it was kind of a tradition that started when UCLA obviously was winning a lot more games, so it was fun. Well, that year, Terry Donahue had decided that we were going to have about 8 captains. And there was we were all representative. I was one of them, but we had black players, white players, and he had a lot of meetings with us. He said, listen, we've got to be a team. I don't want black players over here and white players over here. So he told us the first thing we did was when we had that wall day, he said, you guys are going to do it together and you're going to stay together. So we actually got a local bar down the street called Maloney's to have, we brought the season before we won the USC game. So we got a highlight tape and we put it on all the TVs in the place, and we played that game, and we all went down to the local, it wasn't, not everybody was old enough to drink, so we weren't all drinking, but like we went down and had a party. And it was like the beginning. That team ended up going on to play in a Rose Bowl. We won a Pac-10 championship, and it was like, but we had to come together. I still remember one of my buddies said, "Hey man, you come with me," because we're like, "Come down to Stratton's with us," which was a local bar where, again, a lot of white people. And he says, "You're coming to one of my parties." And I got taken kind of out of town, and I went to a party where I was one of the only white people there. And all these experiences really, you grow from it, and you get to see, maybe what they're going through. What it feels like to be them when they're being looked at in a certain way versus, I don't know, but we grew a lot. So yes, to say that we didn't deal with any of those issues, we totally did. The sad part is all this happened in 92. We still haven't figured it out, right?
Right.
We're still a mess when it comes to all the racial stuff that we're dealing with.
I think Time Magazine had that really good cover where it was a protest, and it, this is in 1968 and it was crossed out, in 1992 and it was crossed out, in 2020. Like we're here, we're still here. We've never really left. The good news is, if you spin this forward, I think young people, the young generation, the people that are actually taking to the streets to protest peacefully and march. I mean, you look at those crowds. I mean, they are. It's every color under the sun, right? There's a lot of diversity. So I feel good about that. But, just looking at the last couple of months, it's been a challenge. Now, there's no way to pivot from that to college football, but I would like to, because you're out west, and the Pac-12, let's face it, not to get political, they are the most progressive in terms of, safety amongst governors, universities, presidents, school presidents, I should clarify. But, I read the stuff coming out of Oregon a couple months ago where it was like, we're not having anything. We're not having any mass gatherings until September. Okay, well, Ohio State's supposed to come to Autzen Stadium week 2. Like, how's that going to go? I mean, what are you hearing about, what's going on the ground with Gavin Newsom in California, and what are your expectations? Because this is going to be very regional in how this plays out. The Rose Bowl seats like 95,000 people, but there's no way they're going to play a football game that holds anywhere close to that this season.
Right. It's mandatory to wear masks again. That's a Gavin Newsom move, and he came out, I think, as recently as today or yesterday, and said that if things keep going in the wrong direction and it's going to get more strict.
By the way, Winston-Salem, where Serber and I live, where our studios are, which we haven't seen since March, by the way.
Right. I was there yesterday. They're still there, man.
Those are still there, but we are not clocking office hours. This weekend it goes into effect, mandatory masks.
Yeah, we've already started that. And so, what do you guys think, percentages wise? If you ask college athletes, how many of them are willing to take the risk and want to play? What do you think the percentage would be?
Is it an anonymous poll?
Yeah, absolutely anonymous. There's no politics involved. These are just college kids.
I'd say it's probably 1/3, if I had to guess. Now, I don't know if we.
You think that want to play?
Sorry. I'd say 1 out of every 3 is probably like, I don't feel comfortable about this.
Interesting. Okay.
If I had to guess. Now, I've seen a couple of, The Athletic had something a month ago where they were asking student athletes, how do you feel about being back on campus? The problem is, and again, it's hard to have this discussion without veering into political, guardrails, but college sports is all about the haves and the have-nots. Like, schools that have money, like let's say the University of Georgia, they can afford to test their players daily if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. Well, Georgia State cannot. Okay, Georgia Southern cannot. The University of Florida probably can if they wanted to. The University of Texas probably can. But there's a lot of other schools that aren't in the Power 5 financially that can't afford to have these same measures in place. It's all going to come down to discipline. Like, you can't keep your kids from going to a party. You can do that at the NBA. You can say, guys, come to Disney. We're going to put you in a hotel. You're not going to see your wife and kids for 3 months, but you're going to get paid very well for it, right? You're going to be very highly compensated. College is a different beast. And so I just wonder what this is going to look like if you start camps in July, which we're right on the doorstep of, practices leading up to kickoff, and then you scale it back because it either spreads or, God forbid, something happens and someone gets hospitalized and dies. right?
I would guess that I was thinking the number would be closer to 90%. I really was. I was thinking that most athletes are ready to go. They want to play. And I would tie this into the same people that sit out bowls for their pro careers, the same people that are, already know they're being projected as high draft picks, the ones that play at the orange school that Serbs is wearing a hat for. Those guys might be thinking it's not worth the risk because, everybody's telling them how valuable they are constantly. But most athletes are like, man, I was ready to go 2 months ago. Let's go play.
Right.
And I really believe that. I really believe that the majority of athletes, it's kind of like, I feel the same way about if you asked college athletes now about, if they're happy with their scholarship. Again, I think it's 90-something% are like, heck yeah, I get to go to college for free. I get all this gear. I get to play a sport that I love. It's that small percentage of guys that are all, that are going to be that less than 2% that make money in the NFL.
Right.
That are probably worried about more stuff. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that have maybe sick members in their family, but for football season, when you're in college, have a dorm or an area, set up for the team. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but I agree with you. There's no way to keep everybody safe. It's impossible, especially in a sport like football. But I'm willing to bet that most people, if there was a real poll, most of the athletes want to play.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. You're not going to get media availability with these student athletes. I mean, media days are going to be virtual this year. I mean, usually that's a thing you do every summer, right? You go down to Hollywood in the Pac-12 or the SEC does it in Alabama or Atlanta, and you get together and you get in a room and you talk to coaches and players.
Yep.
Well, that ain't happening this year. So, the whole thing is going to be bizarre. But I don't think this helps. Like, if you have the best medical staff in the country, I don't think you're at an advantage. I think this comes down to coaches or upperclassmen getting everyone into a room and saying, look, guys, if we want to win a championship this year, or heck, if we want to play 12 games this year, we need to keep our shit together. Like, we need to be disciplined. We need to be locked in. Don't be going out and doing these things. And I don't think you can do that in college. Like, I think that's going to be a challenge. Look, guys are testing positive on the PGA Tour, Wayne.
Yep.
And these guys are flying charter. Okay, they're bringing their cooks on the road. No Brooks Koepka this weekend. I know you're disappointed to see that. No BK.
I know, but how many of them?
Caddy's got it.
I know, but how many of them are gonna? How many of these? I'm not. I know if we lose one life, that's too many. I get it.
It's not going to take.
How many of these people are going to be fine?
It's not going to. That's the thing, though, and this is important because look, I hear you. It's not going to take a student athlete to die for college football to get derailed this year. It's going to take a locker room where you've got asymptomatic kids,
right. Nobody can play
stuff,
yeah.
And it spreads. And guess what? Aside from this thing right here, there is no cure. There is no protection. The only thing you can do is isolate and protect yourself and stay away from people who you think have it. Well, all these kids are asymptomatic. Brooks Koepka's caddy, it was asymptomatic. He didn't know he had it. But guess what? Now you've been playing with other guys. You've been on the putting green. You've been on the driving range. You touch the flag stick. Somebody reaches down into the cup. Like, you see where this is headed? By the way, how weird is golf in the COVID world? I know you've been out and played.
No, I've played and I've watched it, and it's interesting. I've played quite a bit.
You have to play
actually
with a mask on?
No. You when you go into the clubhouse and stuff, you do. But most of the people I play with, we see each other like quite a bit. So, but you're not. The flag stick stays in.
No raking.
We're not. There's no raking. There's none of that stuff.
Shaking. Yeah, nothing.
None of that stuff. But again, as long as we live in this, but if this happens, we should shut it down. Then we're just shut it down. We're just going to keep shutting it down, and the consequences of that. And again, I'm not trying to be political, but you guys have to see it where you live, where I live. I mean, if you keep shutting everything down and you keep giving everybody money from the government, yes, it may not happen now, but a couple years from now, we're going to end up having to pay for all of this.
Wayne,
how about all these athletic departments that people are going to, and I know people are like, well, life's more important. These guys' livelihoods, there are athletic programs that will not function
That's correct.
Without football money. They're
Correct.
it's gonna be ridiculous. How are we gonna recover for this? The world we live in right now, where there's $1 billion. I mean, these athletic programs. When I went to school, we got a pair of shoes, we got some sweats. Our locker room was like a nice high school. I mean, it was like when I went to, I was like, wow, what they do now and the amount of money they spend on this, it's crazy. But will they be able to keep doing that? Or is this going to set things back a lot?
Look, college football is the kitty that keeps everything running. And let's keep in mind, there was no NCAA basketball tournament this year. So we're already operating behind the 8 ball there because there were no payouts. The NCAA, which does not govern college football like it does basketball, but we're already at a place where smaller schools are saying baseball, soccer, cross country, we can't do it. You're done. Like the program is over. Sorry, I know you're on scholarship, but we can't do this because we're hemorrhaging cash. Look, just quick correction, Wayne. The only people who are getting money from the government was a one-time $1,200 per person check. That's not that much money, bro.
No. But they're gonna listen though. When they start talking about stimulus packages that are in didn't they throw around like the trillion number? I mean, they're talking about
for businesses.
I understand that money, and I know some of that's payback, some of that's loan, right? I believe. I'm just telling you guys, there is going to be at some point in time, this money's got to come back somehow.
Yeah, no, look, the whole country's operating at a significant deficit. And look, just drive down a city block. I mean, I don't live in the city, but for my friends that do, it's just, a lot of it's just boarded up, man.
Yep.
Like small businesses, like New York City, mom and pop shops they just can't get back on their feet. And it is tragic. Now,
business owners are testing positive now. Like we've had that happen out here where people are opening up their business and then they're testing positive and again, they're asymptomatic and then they're having to shut their doors again.
By the way, disclaimer, I know that there are this is a college football show. We're trying to make it a college football show. The college football industry is a separate ball of wax from businesses that are having to, go bankrupt. Like I realize JCPenney is down and out. All right. I'm sorry. Like that's not this isn't the place to go for that. I mean, all due respect to JCPenney, or Macy's or, Cerber. I know you like to shop at the Gap, RIP Gap, right? Like I know it's
they got great belts at the Gap.
Yeah,
I had a belt from the Gap. It lasted me 5 years. I shit you not. You had
I hate to see it.
Lasted you 5 years? I bet not.
By the way, on good news, Cerber has released an album, Wayne. I know you've been out and about. I mean, you're on
just
boats.
one song. Just one song.
Well, look, I mean, that's
a single. All right.
Yeah.
So check it out. Crispin Lover, Quarantineager, make it happen. Right? I do that right, Serbs? I'll plug it for you.
You should have been on MTV. I don't know. Man, college sports now is a great lane for you, but you could have been the next Kurt Loder. That was good.
I mean, if you're a child of the 90s and I mean, Kurt Loder. Like if I saw Kurt Loder in an airport, I'd probably faint. I'd probably pass out. I was tight with that guy. That's how I found out Kurt Cobain died.
Huh.
That's how everyone did.
Just to take it to a really dark place here in late June. All right, I want to talk football with you, Wayne, in terms of not just UCLA, which, by the way, the Vegas over-unders have been released. I know you're not a gambling man, but do you want to take a stab at what the wise guys in Vegas have to say about your alma mater this season in terms of the over-under win total for the UCLA Bruins?
Well, they set it about 6.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
5.5.
5.5.
So, you're right there, man. You're right on
I'm not surprised, though. No, you know what? Again, and we talk about this all the time, you guys. The landscape of college football right now is there's 5 or 6 teams that have a legitimate chance, according to the powers that be, to win the national championship. And they're the same 5 or 6 teams that are pretty much always up there. Now, there's always LSU kind of has always been a good football program, but they were always capable of being great.
Yeah.
You're still going to have Clemson. You're still going to have Ohio State. You're still going to have Oklahoma. You're still going to have those powers that be. And then you're going to have a couple other teams that are going to be on the fringe, the Floridas, I don't want to call Georgia a fringe team, but they're
a fringe team.
They are because they haven't won national championship, right? So
it's fine.
Oregon, you see what I'm getting at though? Like there's teams that are like that next step down that aren't quite in that elite status. You talked about the money in college football. We all know that certain programs are built with sustainability and everybody's just trying to catch up. It's an arms race. So UCLA, believe it or not, if you look at the amount of funding they put into football and what they've done with their facilities and everything else, they're definitely not trying. You know, they invest money in their program. And, you know, Chip Kelly's in year 3 now, and we have a quarterback that's coming into his 3rd season. We have a little bit of an older roster. We're full. You know, there's a lot of people that defected for whatever reason. Maybe they just weren't cut out for the program. So there is a chance. The one thing I've learned about the Pac-12 is that there are teams that will, you know, that can kind of surprise.
Yeah.
So it'll be, you know, Washington State's done it, you know, enough times so we're like, hey, this team's pretty good. But I think that they have a chance to be better than that. I would probably take the over because I like our schedule.
Of course you would. Of course.
No. But listen though, 7 with the schedule that UCLA has.
Yeah,
there's more parity in the Pac-12 than there is in a lot of conferences, so it's not like you're playing against programs like, I don't think Oregon's on UCLA's schedule this year. Washington's going to take a little bit of a step back, I think. They're still going to be good. You know, Stanford's trying to find its way still, so that's not the, you know, UCLA beat Stanford last year for the first time in a long time. So David Shaw's trying to rebuild a little bit. Cal's going to be better than normal. But I think UCLA has a good shot of being a bowl team this year. I really do. So I would take the over.
It helps when Oklahoma's not on the schedule, right?
New Mexico State, Hawaii, and think about what UCLA's done the last several years. They always have this. Their schedule's been crazy. They have 3 winnable games to start their season. It's not like San Diego State.
They need that.
Right.
That's the thing. Chip Kelly the last 2 years has started 0-4, or I mean they just can't get out of the month of September with a win. So, yeah, New Mexico State, Hawaii, San Diego State, we call that manageable. I mean, the SEC would be proud of that type of non-conference schedule, Wayne. That's how good it is.
It's tougher. That's tougher than most SEC schedules. Come on.
You want to take a stab at the highest over/under win total in the nation? It's pretty easy, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Highest over/under win total in the nation.
Ohio State.
Ohio State is second. Cerber's Clemson Tigers are sitting at 11.5. That's obscene.
But no, it's just not obscene because look at how bad that conference has been.
They got to go to the flats week 1. Watch out. By the way,
Trevor Lawrence and Fields, though, when you have those 2 guys at quarterbacks, I'm not surprised because if you have talent like both those teams do every single year, the talent that they have with elite quarterbacks, it's hard to beat those teams.
Cerber, is Clemson going to lose a regular season football game this year?
Yikes. I don't know. You wouldn't think so, right? But crazier things have happened. Remember how good the first, well, I guess technically the second national championship team was? They lost to Pitt.
Yeah.
At home.
At home. They lost to Pitt at home. So college football is weird. No, I don't think Clemson's going to lose a regular season game, but who knows?
At Florida State, at Notre Dame.
Florida State is a
dicey.
You want to talk dicey. But you want to talk about a team that's had a rough offseason. Florida State has not been it's been a rocky start for Norvell.
Another example for a coach putting his foot in his mouth, right?
Dude, and why did you feel the need to say that? Like, if you haven't met with your team, why do you feel the need to say, yeah, I met with my team. We talked about race. We're in a good place. It's like, well, come on, man. Anyway, we digress. Watch out for rowdy BB&T Field in late November when the Tigers come to town.
I think Wake could be the second best team in the ACC this year.
Oh, stop it.
No. They could be a 10-win team. Look at their schedule.
They're over under for the Demon Deacons, the mighty Demon Deacons, 6.5. So if you feel that way, you can drive to Clark County, Nevada. I wouldn't fly, but you could drive there. Be a heck of a journey. Go full Hunter S. Thompson and just drive out there.
I will lay down the Phil Brame special.
Down. Yeah.
I'll lay down the Phil Brame special. We will go all in on Wake Forest because I think they could. They're definitely going to win 7 games.
I hope so. I hope so. I like seeing teams like Wake Forest have solid seasons. I think it's fun. Question for you guys. Have we reached a point where we should stop talking about conferences and just start talking about programs? Like for example, I'm gonna give you guys an example. We will all watch the draft. We did a bunch of shows right before the draft, and we've been on hiatus since then.
Yes, we have.
The draft was it was an SEC SEC. Look how great the SEC is. Okay, which is fine. If I had to rank the conferences before anybody starts getting mad at me, the SEC is the best conference. I get it. But one of the things, and I have this written down somewhere, and I forget, it might have been on The Athletic. It might have been, I forget where I found this stat. There are 5 Pac-12 schools in the last 5 years that have more draft picks into the NFL than like 7 or 8. I forget what the number is now, but than a lot of SEC schools. The point that I'm trying to make is when we talk about Alabama and LSU and Georgia, those like top 5, top 4, top 5 teams, and we say the SEC, the SEC, the SEC. Well, is it really the SEC or is it just those programs? Is Clemson all of a sudden just make the ACC really, really good, or is it just Clemson? Is Ohio State, like what I'm getting at is there's only a few elite teams, and we act like because, remember, the SEC has 14 teams, that because they have, it's Alabama and then whoever else decides to kind of have a great year, right? I mean, Alabama's always in it.
Yeah.
And then it's between Florida, Georgia, LSU, and Auburn, right?
Historically.
Is anybody else in that conference going to win a national championship?
No.
Could you take all those other teams and throw them into other conferences and guarantee they would win that conference?
So
Did you get what I'm getting at?
Yeah. No,
we're making it out like these elite teams, and we say, "Oh, this conference." No. It's elite teams. We've actually reached that point in college sports where there are certain programs that are just elite.
Well, the reason that no one talks about the Pac-12 like that, right, is because USC and UCLA
USC's not winning.
doing that. Right.
Yeah.
So if USC was winning, if USC, Stanford, and Washington are back to winning 10 games a year, then you have an argument. So I think you're dead on. I think the conference thing is total crap because, yeah, it's probably going to win the ACC, and it's going to be one of those guys from the SEC. It's really got way more to do. Look at a program, what they've done over the last 10 years, and you will find out a lot more based than like, Alabama has to play Ole Miss every year,
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You know what, Serber? I think that I watch these things and I have these thoughts, and I'm like, there are, and obviously, I love it when a Wake Forest or a Purdue or a Arizona State or a team that we don't normally notice is sitting there with like 10 wins with a couple of weeks left, a Utah. That's a fun story. It's a fun story to think about. Man, if they could just figure this out and win a game or two, they might have a shot. But it's hard. In most of college football, like 97%, 98% of it, more than that, 99% of it, is actually playing what college football is for everybody. It's this really hard game. You even pointed it out with Clemson losing to Pitt, where it's so hard to get through the season without having a couple of slip-ups. Most programs don't have enough depth to have an injury to the wrong player and survive it. There's only a handful of programs that their backup quarterback, like Alabama, for example, is going to come in and still win games. I guarantee you, and again, I don't know if it was this way when Deshaun Watson was a quarterback at Clemson, because I think he was really, really, really important. Trevor Lawrence is great, but I have a weird feeling that if he got hurt, their backup came in, they would still win the ACC. I don't even know who the backup is, to be honest with you. I'd have to look.
He's a California kid from St. John Bosco, and he was the #1 recruit.
The kid that just came out, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be number 2 already?
Well, it's probably going to be him, but if it's not him, it's a Tyson Pumacon, who was like the
That's my
7
point.
quarterback in the. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's my point.
They're still set up better than most teams starting quarterbacks.
Ohio State, same thing. Think of all the years that Ohio State was like they had this guy, and then they have this guy, and then they have this guy, and then they have this guy. I mean, it's crazy.
To your point, Chase Bryce, last year's backup, is going to be the starting quarterback for Duke.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Most schools don't have that, and like I've said this for UCLA, like when we've had really good quarterbacks, we win. When we don't, we struggle. I mean, it's and there's a lot of schools that would say the exact same thing.
If UCLA wants to learn how to play a little bit of defense this year, that wouldn't hurt them either, right? I mean,
You being ranked in the hundreds is not good. Yeah, it's not
when
good.
you're giving up like 8 yards per play.
Okay, listen, Hartzell.
I'm not a math major, but that's usually not going to get it
This
done.
year is going to be better, okay? I don't know how much better. I'm looking for a defense ranked in the middle of the road, and it'll be good.
You know what else I'm rooting for? I'm rooting for the entire – because here's where things – again, going back to the business of college football, which, again, very fluid right now.
Right.
Serber and I, we work for this company that owns the rights to just about every college you can think of. So we're talking in these meetings about the business of college football. For example, what's the biggest, baddest thing when you go into a football stadium besides the game? It's the Jumbotron, right? People are,
Right.
schools are investing tens of millions of dollars into the biggest, baddest Jumbotron you can find. Well, there's not going to be 90,000 people in the stadium to see whatever you're putting on that Jumbotron, i.e. advertisements. Okay, so how do you make that money back? Okay. Enter radio, interestingly enough.
Radio, yes.
But here's the thing. You're not going to have tickets, or at least the tickets that you will have will go to family members, maybe the band, maybe the students, and the richest donors, like the people that are spending the most money or donating the most money with the athletic department. But, how are we going to handle the radio broadcasts? Are we going to have our sideline reporter, in this case, Wayne Cook, roaming the sidelines of the Rose Bowl? Is he going to be?
If people aren't there in person, that's the most important job in the stadium. I mean, come on now. You got to have the eyes on the crowd.
I agree.
Me?
Look,
Yeah.
I agree. I need you there sticking your microphone in places that we can't be. But again, that's where this is going to be crazy because baseball's coming back, and they've already told their people, look, if you're a radio broadcaster and you want to travel, that's fine. You don't need to bring your TV crew. When you're on the road, the home team will give you the feed, and whatever you do with that feed in your own production house or truck is up to you. But you don't need to come here. You don't need to bring your 50 people. We got this. We'll give it to you. So again, the business of this is going to be so wild. Imagine tuning on ESPN Saturday morning and College Game Days in a studio, or it's in an empty. You can't have 5,000 people bunched up behind. You see what I'm saying? All of a sudden everything just gets muted. It's going to be really interesting. I'm not ready for it. I'm watching it play out in golf and in soccer and soon baseball and basketball. But I mean, when it hits college football and you think about the fans and the pageantry and, the fight songs and everything that goes into what we love about this sport, it's going to be wacky. And I hope it's just for a small period of time. I hope it's just for this 1 year and then we can get a vaccine. Let's go science. And then we'll all get it and we'll be great. But man, it's going to be an interesting fall, right? Super interesting.
I've had every single one of those thoughts, and you articulated really, really well. And for a personal reason, I mean, I've been doing sideline reporting for 20 years. I want to keep doing it. You know what I mean? I don't want to, and you reach a point. This is the part that this becomes real. And it's I'm spoiled, you guys, right? I'm a school teacher, which, by the way, is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about school.
Well, that's the crazy part because, some people are throwing out models where the kids are at school for part of the time. And I'm like, well, if they're at school at all, they're going to be exposed to the germs. So either go all in or don't do it. We're giving kids options to stay home and do virtual and go to school. And to be honest with you, just so you know where I stand, my kid's going back to school. My kid's supposed to be playing freshman football and they keep pushing back the date of when they can start. He was supposed to start last Saturday, but now they're talking about July 6th, and I would not be surprised if it gets pushed back again because of all the outbreaks. But for a personal reason, the salary that I make for broadcasting is a huge part of how my wife and I live. I mean, and just like both of you, we make money in this business.
We work, don't make money, just so you know.
But we work hard, and it's just another one of those. It's our job. It's what we do, and so if that doesn't happen, it has an impact and it trickles down. And again, trust me, I'm in a much better place than a lot of people. I've been teaching for 22 years and I'm still getting my paycheck. And so trust me, I'm not complaining, but there's a whole lot of people. There are people that do sideline reporting like me, that is their job.
Right.
And again, I would like to say it is my job too. It's one of my jobs, but I don't want to lose it, and you don't want it to go away, and you don't want them. So I'm with you. I've had all these same thoughts, and obviously you guys both work for a company that relies on college football, and we all do. And if it's not around, what's going to happen?
I mean, again, going back to the business of all this, I knew guys and gals who work minor league baseball. Okay. Well, that's not a lot of money, but they do it because they love broadcasting and they love, the thought of calling games at single A level, double A, hey, maybe triple A, and you just never know, right? Maybe the bigs calls one day. Well, your whole life gets put on hold because you leave what you're doing to go call minor league baseball in West Virginia or Nebraska, and that minor league baseball season's never started, and it probably won't. Same too with the guys and gals who call college basketball, college baseball, who were dependent on a paycheck that never came and isn't coming. I will say this, though, Wayne. I've been in the press box at the Rose Bowl, way up there where they call the games. I'd rather be on the sidelines than in those radio booths. Those radio booths are about the size of a closet, bro. It's like a bowling alley in there. Yeah,
For years, Steven, I when I first started doing this, my goal was always to end up in the booth. I wanted to be that guy. I've done this long enough now to where I feel like I would be missing something. You know what I mean? Like I always, you guys know me. I mean, I can't. You guys get halfway through what you're about to say, and I have like a million things I want to say. It's just how I'm wired. On the sidelines at football games, you'd be surprised how often I used to, and the way before we used to have an engineer that I could talk into the microphone, and like there were people up at the booth that could hear me, but not the play-by-play guy, so I wasn't bugging him. I was talking the whole time. I would pull the microphone up, and I was talking the whole game. I can't do that anymore. It drives me crazy. It's like so, but I love being around the players. Yeah. I love talking to the coaches. I love being like there's an interaction on the sidelines. I would love to be able to call a game, but I would miss it. And one of my first thoughts was, sideline reporting going to be something that they don't want. It's
going to be seen as something that each school's going to have to make a decision on. Hey, in light of us operating at a deficit, how many people do we need to make our radio broadcast what it is? Because look, again, this is us nerding out on what we do, but besides the play-by-play guy and the color analyst who you hear over the air, you've got spotters, statisticians, engineers, and in some cases multiple of spotters and statisticians, and those are just people in the booth that you don't hear from, that you never see, but who are feeding people information. Oh, by the way, you've got a sideline reporter in some cases. Maybe you've got pregame and postgame people. This whole machine. Now you've got to sit down and decide. Okay, what do we want to do? What do we want to do? And by the way, UCLA's got a new AD. So I don't know if you've got
who, by the way, looks awesome. I'm pretty excited about what he's done so far. But I'll say this: we do, and I'm sure a lot of you've seen it, Steven. Everybody or a lot of around the country. I've been a part of a pregame show on the road and at home where we're out in front of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I hosted a pregame show at Texas at Notre Dame where we had thousands of people in a big old tent that traveled to these stadiums because they're, historical places, Alabama, Oklahoma. We've been at all those places. And Matt Stevens, my broadcasting partner, and I are always hosting an hour and a half pregame show in front of the people. We're handing out gifts. We're doing raffles during commercial breaks. I mean, it's a big thing before the game even starts. That stuff's done.
Right. Well, that's the thing. The tailgate.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that look, in some cases, like I went to school at James Madison. All right. That's an FCS school. Now it's a bit of a power. It wasn't back then. My point is tailgating greater than sign the actual game. Like I wasn't in it for the game. I was in it to just hang out, drink some beer at 11 o'clock in the morning, and go about my business. That's going to be a thing. Now, I know young people think they're invisible and they don't need these when they're out there tailgating. But if you're a campus and you're running the show, just like the governor of California, hey, man, you want to come here and hang out? You want to open a business? Put on a mask. You want to eat out? Put on a mask. So it's just going to look like the optics of it are going to look like something out of a movie. It's just going to be bizarre. So I don't know if I'm ready for it. I'm glad that sports are back because March and April and May for me were dark. I mean, again, to your point, you love being on the sidelines because you love seeing and being a part of it all. I just love sports. And when that got taken away from me, and again, I say that in the context of I realize we're in a national health crisis. I realize we're in a national economic crisis. I realize there are a lot bigger things going on than what I'm getting to watch on television. But I'm glad that sports are back, even in this, I don't know, antiseptic world where everybody's kind of gloved up and masked up. If that's what it takes, I'm in. You know what I mean?
I'm with you though. Go Science, right? We got to get this. I mean, because
Go
we're gonna,
Science.
I feel like we're going to keep having these waves the more we do things, and people kind of freak out. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but I know that as a Laker fan, I was really bummed when the season got halted. But they're being affected there. I
You're a
know
Laker
that
fan now. That's convenient.
I've been a Laker. Hey,
They were winning 20 games a year.
hey, child, listen to me. Norm Nixon, when he was with the Lakers, was my first. Norm Nixon and Michael Cooper. I can name just about every single Laker. When I went to college, I bought a little TV because my roommates were not Laker fans, and they would not. I had to get a TV so I could put it in my back room so I could watch my Lakers.
What do you
Okay,
think,
and I even watched the Lakers during the Van Exel years. So don't give me any. I've been a Laker fan since I can remember. Okay, so if you want to challenge me on this, that's fine. I mean, you're sitting there, you're Mr. Roll Tide, and you have no connection to Alabama, and we got a Clemson fan, and because my Lakers are one of the best that there's ever been, and they will win more championships, maybe as soon as this year. Don't hate, man. I've been a Laker fan my whole life. I am a true Laker fan.
Two thoughts. One, most everyone under the age of 35 that listens to this podcast was just going, who?
Exactly. Come on. Norm Nixon and Michael Cooper. Michael Cooper was a great Laker, one of the best six-man to ever play. Kidding me?
This is fantastic because number two, there's a new movie that came out called The King of Staten Island, and there's a character in it played by Bill Burr. And the whole thing is he keeps throwing out these like stats about like Roger Staubach, and eventually it comes to a head about an hour and a half into the movie where they're just like, dude, no one knows who the hell you're talking about. No one cares.
I just heard this.
I had a connection. I love you to death, Wayne, but
I just heard this the other day. Someone said, if you could pick a quarterback from the past that would be elite today, you just said his name, Roger Staubach. How great would he be? And I know you probably have to go back and search the archives to watch the guy play, but Roger the Dodger, okay? This guy had mobility. He had an arm. With RPOs, he would have been dominant.
Let me tell you something. By the time Roger Staubach was 24 years old, he'd graduated from West Point, fought in Vietnam, and became the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
Take 5 years off. Yep.
What have you done?
I mean,
exactly.
Patrick Mahomes has nothing on Jim Thorpe. I mean, come on, man. Have you seen that guy?
Come on.
Hey.
Jim Thorpe made a 95-yard field goal with his eyes closed.
Respect the people that paved the way. Okay,
I do.
I guarantee if you watch some of these guys play, for all of you out there that think that any of the old people that existed couldn't play today, there probably are some that couldn't because they're just too small and too undersized, too whatever. But there are some athletes that could have played in any era, even the ones that were before you were born.
That might be true. But look, I watched 3 months worth of retro game broadcast because that's all that TV could do. That's all they could conjure up when all this happened. And I'm here to tell you, man, John Havlicek, that guy couldn't make an NBA roster today. That guy was trash.
Listen. So listen, that probably is true. But if John Havlicek was born in a different era with different eating and different exercise and different habits, I mean, we've evolved, right? People have evolved. I mean, we're like naturally taller, we're bigger, we're stronger
in some areas. But
mentally we haven't evolved the way we need to, but physically it's obvious. Like when you watch an athlete from now compared to an athlete from even the early 90s, we look different. People look different.
Yeah, again, like that might have been the biggest thing I took away from, other than, boy, these TV networks are really up Schitt's Creek. Was just how different the games were. I mean, the athletes just, you look at a stadium and there's no signage, like there's no ads, like everything about it was just different. Look, Wayne, we could do this all day. I do want to put a bow on this show because next week is July 4th. People are going to be driving. People are going to be boating. I'm here to kind of keep the content going. So maybe we re-rack this next week and we talk about, some July 4th stuff. Right now, my kid is running naked through the yard through the sprinkler. The sprinkler is on, the clothes are off, and he's just running around. I'm not going to turn my computer around so you can see that because I'll probably get arrested. So But look,
But you
man,
know
the
what?
summer's
Hey,
here,
hey.
So time is right. Dancing in the streets.
Life like that is how it should be. Being a little kid, not caring if you're wearing clothes or not. Come on.
Well, I mean, in fairness, like, yeah, why wear the clothes? You're running through a sprinkler. They're just getting wet.
Get buck naked.
Yeah, exactly. Get buck naked. Wayne, let's do it again next week. Okay. Are you going anywhere for the 4th? Am I intruding on
No.
the Cook vacation time? Okay.
We've been to the beach. We've been to the river. We've kind of already done as teachers when the year ends. Even though this was an extremely weird year because we were at home doing virtual learning.
Yeah.
We've done some vacations and. Happy to say everybody's, healthy and going strong. And my older son's in college right now in Arizona, which, by the way, is a state that's not doing well right now with all the new cases. So, we're just trying to keep going, with being smart, but whatever. But we'll be home next week and maybe we'll talk. We got all this out of the way. We can lock in on. But you know what the crazy thing is, you guys, this isn't going away. Yeah. So we're gonna, it's gonna be a part of the conversation, and just so everybody knows, the racial aspect of this, I didn't have enough time to really dive into it too much, but to be honest with you, it bugs me so much how we can lump people into categories so easily, and it's not always with race, it's with sex, it's with pick a category, right? We do it way too much, and I know that even some people out there are tired of Martin Luther King. I've even heard a lot of people going, stop just quoting Martin Luther King. We need to do something. But when he talked about judging people by the content of their character, I really hope that people really understand what that means. Because you can be of a different color, a different race, a different sex, a different whatever than me and be a complete a-hole. And if I judge you as an a-hole because the content of your character sucks, that does not make me a racist or a sexist or a whatever. I'm just judging you based on the content of your character. And I think that as a society, sometimes when we start lumping people into categories and labeling people the way we do, are we really judging people by the content of their character? Or, even going back to what Cerber said about Dabo, is his content of his character different than maybe one thing he said? Because it's complicated. So I hope that we grow. I hope that we improve. As a person that teaches U.S. history, and I teach the Civil War, and I end my year every year with Remember the Titans. And the reason why I show Remember the Titans is one that takes place right next to Gettysburg, and there's a great speech in there about it, but it's also about race 100 years after the Civil War, and that we're just ending segregation and all the problems that we were having as a country. And yet, fast forward to now, I mean, that was right around the time I was born. I think that movie takes place in 1971, and we're still doing this crap. So we've got to get better. We really do. And I truly believe that. I just don't think there's a place for it in our society. And I hope that this is that moment where we grow as a country.
That's well said. Well said, Professor Cook. We got a little cook in the classroom there. I didn't even ask for it. It just happened organically. You're driving your wife crazy, aren't you? Let's be honest. Like, she wants you out of the house. She's tired of your sports takes. Like, you're driving her nuts.
She's heard every story. She looks at me, she goes, I've heard you say this 1,000 times. Because I react to the TV too. I don't know if you guys do that.
Yeah,
but
no kidding, Wayne.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Oh, really?
You react to the radio, the TV. I mean, you have all these triggers, man. Like, it's just so easy.
It's good, though. It's fun.
Yeah.
You trigger me. I know that.
Poor Mrs. Cook.
Cerber makes me happy. It gives me a kind of a warm fuzzy. You trigger me a little bit, Hartzell.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm doing my job then, right? I guess I'm doing my job. At least I shaved the mustache for you, all right? I mean,
you look good.
It got out of hand, bro. Seriously, I got pulled over to the side. People were like,
it looked a little bit. You started looking a little bit like a character that just got a lot of trouble. Did you hear about our man, Ron Jeremy?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Not good.
I'm gonna do you one better because I don't know who these people were that were like, don't do this or whatever. And I'm saying this 100% with sincerity. You looked exactly like Dale Earnhardt Sr. with that thing, and if you don't bring it back at some point,
yes,
the world.
Maybe I'll bring it back next week.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Bring it back for Dale, man. Do it for number 3.
Okay.
We didn't even talk about NASCAR today.
No, I'm still trying to unpack what actually went down there, but
yeah, but possibly at the end of the day, depending on the type of person you are, can't you just look at it as a positive, the way everybody came together to support?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why, even if it was not, You know, the FBI found out that it was not a noose and was not whatever, or it was, but it's been there for over a year and it wasn't. Who cares? A good thing came out of it, and it showed solidarity. And let's be honest with you, is not NASCAR exactly what I was just talking about? When you talk about NASCAR fans, what's the first thing that people want to say?
Racists.
Bunch of racist, rednecks, whatever. And is it quite possible that there are a lot of really good people that are NASCAR fans?
It's very possible.
So this isn't what I was just talking about. Isn't this another example of taking a group of people and lumping them into one category?
Look, that's going to be a fashion. What you sipping on there, server? What was that, buddy? Was that a Fanta?
Yeah, it's just soda.
Just
Sorry, my
soda.
background
Okay.
won't
Well,
let
I
me
mean,
hang.
look, it's happy
But
hour.
it's in a good koozie, you know.
It's a great koozie.
Fantastic koozie.
Here's the thing, though. NASCAR's in for the long haul. Like, they drew their line, and I applaud them for it. It's the correct stance to have in 2020. But they've got a long fight on their hands because those people are they're just stubborn, and it's you saw it when they were flying the plane over Talladega.
Some of those people, and again, like
some of those people,
not
vocal
that-
minority, maybe.
So not that we're going to go down this road, but again, I mean, there are people that will defend the Confederate flag like somehow it's a symbol of like Southern pride, and it's like I'm
our
sorry.
president.
But I'm sorry, but it's not. It's a symbol of the South during a time period where slavery was prevalent, and people need to get over that. It's like the statues and everything else. I don't know if you guys have ever felt this way, but I read something from a former another athlete, an African American athlete, that said that he was forced to read Huckleberry Finn when he was in school out loud. And he was so uncomfortable with how many times the N-word was used in that he said, I'm not doing it. And so he, an African American, was forced to go to the library and read a different book and write a report. It's just stupid. As a history teacher, you guys, I got to be honest with you. When I teach history, and again, in my classroom, I'm just going to give you a little quick example of the demographics in my classroom. There are more white kids than any other group, but there are more minorities than white kids. Meaning that when you add up the African American, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, all of that group, it's actually, there's more of that than there is of the 8, 9, 10 white kids in every class. And so it's very diverse, okay, Southern California. When I teach about, and he's been in the news recently because I believe there's a statue of Andrew Jackson, one of our presidents, the Indian Removal Act, there's something else that they're trying to take down. I have Native American kids in my class that are like, and I know when we're teaching about the Trail of Tears and everything else that bothers them. When we teach slavery, I have African American kids that I can tell that it's uncomfortable. When they hear even the word, I'm not going to say it, but if they hear a certain word that's used in the most basic way, not hate-filled way, it's still, you can feel the class get uncomfortable.
Sure.
And I know that people believe that uncomfortable and this is how we learn and grow, but sometimes I think it creates divisiveness in young people because now I have white kids too that are going, well, we're always the bad guys. So they're uncomfortable. If you're a man who's discriminated against women, and women have to learn that they didn't get the right to vote until well into the 1900s. I mean, it was like well after other people got to vote. Everybody was discriminated against, everybody. And then you start talking rich and poor too. It's almost like nobody's safe and everybody feels uncomfortable. It's hard. It's really, really hard to teach and talk about that stuff. And it's scary too, because you have to be careful not to say the wrong thing. Because 8th graders only hear about 1/3 of what you say because they drift in and out of paying attention. It's a trip. So all the people out there that are trying to like voice, it's really complicated because there's not any group that, I mean, to be kind of honest with you, I'm a gray-haired, I look like a member of Congress, right? Like I'm like a GOP poster
I would
child.
cast you in that role. Yeah, I can see
Right.
that.
Maybe you get what I'm getting at. And so it's like, but that doesn't mean that I don't know. I could keep going on this stuff, but like, I just hope that I just keep going back, be nice to people. If we're all nice to people, wouldn't that be great?
It'd
Even
be
if you're a
lot
jerk,
easier.
I'm still going to be nice to you. Whatever.
Wayne, look, I'm not your agent, okay? So just take this with a grain of salt. But I mean, look, you've got the home podcast studio. All right, like let's get Wayne's takes on history. Like let's get Cookie's historical. Like there's that show on Comedy Central, like Drunk History, where people are just blitzed and they're talking about like Napoleon.
Yeah.
I think there's a market for you to give it to the people in terms of history. What do you think, Cerber? Like, I would check in for that.
I will. Yeah, I think you could tee up Wayne on like JFK assassination, D-Day, any like the civil rights movement, any major historical event. Hell, even the Magna Carta. Like Wayne could probably go for 2 hours, and it would be highly entertaining.
Yeah, bring on a guest or just riff and just do it. I mean, look, you never know. I mean, that's Google was started in a garage, man. You just never know.
We could have Wayno and like Doris
Never know.
Kearns Goodwin, like rapping back and forth. I'm here for that. I think we need to make it happen.
Well, you guys are very, very nice, but it's
Just don't sign a contract with OAN, okay? Because that
no.
That would probably put your UCLA gig in jeopardy and your CSN gig for that matter. Okay. Just be careful. I love.
I don't have a response to that. I don't have. Hey, to be honest with you, it doesn't matter. Everybody seems to think that, like, isn't it funny how people could talk about like whatever media outlet they listen to, and act like the opposing media outlet is the devil. They're all bad. Seriously, like if you can watch any of our major national networks with any objectivity, they are so biased and so slanted, and they twist things that are obvious. Like I told you that Congress interviewing Fauci and the others, that were on that panel yesterday. First of all, it's so like that what Fauci said and then what the news reports on what he said. It's like, I watched it. You're creating something that wasn't said. You're twisting it to fit your agenda, and both sides do it, people. Both sides are guilty. If the next president is a Democrat, the Republicans will try to tear him down for 4 years. If it's Trump again, the same thing will keep happening. It happened during Bush. It happened during Clinton. It happened during Obama. Both sides just switch roles.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, if go ahead, Serbs.
The reason that is because, unfortunately, the news's number one job should be to inform people, correct?
Thank you.
But their number one priority is to sell you something. 100, because how do they operate? By generating revenue. So their number one priority is not to inform you. It's to sell you something. And that's why when you watch the news, you should at least go into it with that mindset that while I might be informed by this, their goal is not to inform me. It is to sell me something.
Yep.
It is to have me stick around until they tell me what brand of toothpaste I need to have to convince someone to be my friend, or else everyone's going to think I'm ugly, and then no one's going to ever like me, right?
Or until Wolf Blitzer's looking into your soul saying, I'm Wolf Blitzer, and you're in the situation room.
Yeah.
That's what I'm in it for. That right there. Just that moment. I'm going to end the show on this note. Kids, wear your mask because I want to have a football season. And if you don't wear your mask, we're probably not going to have a football season. Nick Saban doing that infomercial with Big Al. Did you see that? Like, I know you joke around that I'm Roll Tide guy. I just like saying Roll Tide to strangers in elevators because it's a lot of fun. But Nick Saban going on camera, this is like 2 months ago, going on camera with a mask on was one of those things where even I had to kind of sit back and be like, this guy's brilliant. Like, he gets it. Like, he's doing more for his university and that fan base, which, let's be honest, it's Alabama, okay? It's Alabama. They're not, they're not up on the science like they are in your neck of the woods, Wayne. But Nick Saban going on camera with a mask on, being like, you need to wear your damn mask, that was powerful. That's the type of stuff it's going to take. That's leadership. That's leadership.
You just stereotyped Alabama, and I need you to stop that, okay? There's plenty of intelligent people in that part of the world, and Nick Saban is a leader, but remember, he is in the age of the demographic that's in danger, right? According to what we've been told. So obviously, we didn't talk about that at all, but there's a lot of coaches that are up there in age, and that, we haven't even talked about them. They have to be safe as well.
I could be wrong, but Alabama as a state ranks at least 45th in terms of education in the country.
But hey, slow down.
And there goes all of our Alabama downloads.
Slow down.
I'm basing it on that.
Just because this is kind of if you look at California's got some of the most brilliant people in the world, but we've also got a bunch of idiots too. I mean, sorry, California, but we do. When you have, whatever 30-something million people in a state, you're going to have your more educated areas than others. So I guarantee you there's a lot of very smart people in Alabama. And I'm sure there's some others as well. But I think this is don't you think that's a problem in our society right now? When you listen to social media, how many idiots respond on social media on a regular basis? I mean, am I saying anything controversial by saying that?
Roll Tide, roll.
Yeah, roll Tide. Roll Tide.
We'll let Server cut that out. Wayne, thank you for making the time for us goons. We'll do it again next week, okay?
Next week. I can't wait. Let's keep it going.
At CS Now Tweets, for Server, for Wayne, I'm Hartzell. Talk to you next week. So long.